Hey everyone. Yeah, like I mentioned before when I did my Mega Man review, I told you this was going to be a very weird, if not very unusual, and let me roll this up a little bit. There we go. Like I said, it's going to be a very weird, if not. Again, let me roll this up. Hold on. There we go. Like I said, it's going to be a very unusual, if not very weird. Like I said, it's going to be a very unusual. Let me do this again. Sorry. Get this up a little more. There we go. Yeah, perfect. But as I was saying, this was going to be basically a very unusual summer schedule, and the reason I say that is because unless I've had the schedule like I've had for the past 2 days at my job, where I work in the evening, basically I have to do this, or I have the day off. I basically have to do some videos about around this time frame, which is basically about 2:17 in the morning. Thankfully, I'm off on Wednesday. But, you know, I was thinking about this for a second. And, well, I was actually not thinking about it for a second, but I was reading an article, if you will, just now. Because I was thinking, I know I'm not the only one whose mother or wife or girlfriend or whoever suggested that when Inside Out comes to Blu-ray, we have to get it. And I'm sure that's with all movies out in theaters right now, or have been out in theaters. And it's not too surprising people would ask that, or suggest that to people like me, because the movie's obviously very good in their eyes. Now, here's the thing, though. The articles I was just reading kind of made me think a little bit. And being at Walmart, working at Walmart, I was thinking about this. Not thinking about it, but I've noticed that on an average of almost 4 to 5 months after a movie is released, it gets released on Blu-ray, DVD, and if before that, nowadays, digitally through video on demand, like pay-per-view on demand. So, the question is, how much longer is it going to be before the release window, the theatrical release, basically how much longer is it going to be before the release dates between theatrical and home video get short? Let me explain. You see, some of the articles here talked about the fact that over the past 20, 30 years, if not the past 20 years, if not 10 years, if not 15 years, we should put it, that the window between a theatrical release for a movie and then its eventual home video distribution on Blu-ray and DVD is slowly but surely shrinking as time goes on. One could understand that if a movie bombed at the box office, that it wouldn't take that much longer for it to arrive on Blu-ray or DVD. Or if a movie was very controversial but still survived somehow, well, it wouldn't be long before it arrived on Blu-ray and DVD. I'll give you an example. Let's go back in time. And let's take a look at a movie like, let's say, Transformers. Now we know when this came out in August of 1986 that it was a huge hit in the eyes of many die-hard Transformer fans, even if they were kids at the time, and went on to become a cult classic. However, it bombed thanks to critics basically looking at it as, one, being nothing more than an 86-minute toy commercial, and two, parents, mostly mothers, looking at it as being too violent from what kids were originally used to, and from what they were originally used to showing their kids. So it didn't last too long in theaters. However, here's what's crazy about this. Back in 1986 and 87, a movie like this had the window between its theatrical release, which was August, and its VHS release, which was about around the beginning of 1987. Now, you might say, well, that was back in the 80s. What point are you getting at? My point is this. If this movie was released nowadays in theaters, and it bombed the way it did in 1986, almost 30 years ago, then this movie would have been out on Blu-ray and DVD probably 2-3 months after its release. Maybe less. Maybe 2 months. Or 2.5 to be exact. And that, in a sense, wouldn't be a surprise to many people if it was critically bombed. Because basically, if it's not doing financially good in the theaters, then why have it still shown on those screens? It doesn't make any sense, right? So why even have it still? Honest question, they wouldn't. But here's something else that really is surprising when I looked up at this information. As we have gone through the past decade, I should say, or so. As we've gone through the past decade, it's become, how should I put this? It's almost become very knowledgeable, if not surprising, that the window is shrinking between theatrical and home video release of a movie, or movies I should say, and sometimes it even centers, that shrinking window even centers around big blockbuster movies. That's right, big blockbuster movies. Give you an example. Jurassic World. I know it's out right now. It's a big blockbuster hit. It's breaking all kinds of records. Guess what? It's going to be out on Blu-ray and DVD before you know it. Inside Out came out a week after Jurassic World did. Both are definitely destined for a November, if not October release. Why do I say that? Because of the fact that instead of waiting till November or December for them to be released, the movie, because of its popularity, is released sooner than what maybe could be scheduled originally for its home video distribution. Or distribution. Easy for me to say. Easy for me to say. But anyway, like I said, easy for me to say. But anyway, as I was trying to point out, because of the popularity sometimes the movie comes out a lot sooner. Now, some might say that ruins it, right? Let me give you an example of something. Frozen came out in November of 2013. Am I right? So if it came out in 2013, its release date was essentially around March. Wouldn't it make more sense for it to, let's say, I don't know, come out in April? I remember because when it came out, or when it was slowly starting to come out for home video distribution, one lady at my store, and this was basically the first month I was there, was asking me, is Frozen out? Where can I find Frozen? And I would tell her, oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, the digital release of Frozen is out, but not the physical release. I would have to tell her that it would be weeks before we got the physical release. And it's true. It is true. And when you know it, that same lady came back, I think, a few weeks later and got the physical release of Frozen. But take a look at this. Frozen came out in November. November, December, January, February is March. 4.5 months on average. Some have calculated it and said 4 months and 14 days. Basically, you're looking at an average of 135 days between theatrical and DVD release, DVD and Blu-ray release. So if you take a look at something like Inside Out that just came out this Friday, and I do recommend people to see, you're taking a look at 135 days from now that it will be on Blu-ray and DVD. 135 days. And you might say, well, how far is that? Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look, shall we? Okay? Today is the 24th, now being Wednesday. 23rd was yesterday, 22nd was Monday, 21st was Sunday, which is the day I saw it, 20th was Saturday, 19th. Let's take a look from June 19th to August 19th. That's 60 days. To September 19th. That's 90 days. You are looking, literally, and then October 19th. That, my friends, is 120 days. So on average, you are looking towards the end of October, beginning of November, for this movie to be released on Blu-ray and DVD. Maybe sooner. But on average, if it's a big hit, and it's the #1 family movie out there today, then there is no doubt you're looking at a mid-October, early November release. That is what you're looking at for Inside Out. Take a look at Jurassic World. It came out basically a week earlier, which was the 12th. So you take a look at that. On average, October 12th would be 120 days. You add 15 more days to it, and you would have literally almost a Halloween release for Jurassic World. I'm not lying here, folks. I'm just stating what I feel is fact, and could strongly be possibilities for release dates. And think about it on average for something like Inside Out. The time framing for it to be released. Around the end of October, which is Halloween, beginning November as we hit the holiday season. Perfect holiday gift if you don't get it already. Get what I'm saying? But the question again that I stated, and the title says it above or below depending on how you watch this, is how much more how much smaller will this release window continue to shrink between theatrical and Blu-ray theatrical and home video just release, well, theatrical and home video releases, how much smaller will it get? Because sometimes, here's one thing that really struck me when I read one of the articles. They said back in 2010, when Disney released Alice in Wonderland, the Tim Burton movie, or the Tim Burton remake, or whatever you want to call it, or reboot, or whatever, that Disney wanted to release it 14 weeks after its theatrical release onto Blu-ray and DVD to compete and not be basically destroyed by the 2010 World Cup. I don't know, something like that. And there were a lot of theater owners, from this article said, that were threatening not to show the film, but then later on changed their mind because I think they pretty much knew they were going to have a hit no matter what. But that was Disney, and that's basically them saying, oh, well, we want to release it 2.5 months after it's come out. Or, yeah, let's see. 4, it's 2, and then the next one, yeah, basically about 4, and 2, yeah, basically about 3.5 months after it's out. Almost 3 months after it's out. And theater owners didn't want to do it. They were threatening to boycott showing the film, but they changed their minds. But that right there, that article stuck out to me because if Disney's willing to do that, because they want to take what they know was going to be a blockbuster hit, and it was, and release it a lot sooner than it normally should be onto Blu-ray and DVD to compete with something like the World Cup, then to me that just shows me that obviously movie studios will do whatever it takes to beat their competition. They'll do whatever it takes. Give you a strong example. When 20th Century Fox's Don Bluth's Thumbelina came out. Well, not Thumbelina. Was it Thumbelina? No, it was Swan. Oh, it was Swan Princess. That's what it was. When the Swan Princess came out, the animated version, it was a huge hit, but it didn't succeed the way Warner Brothers was hoping it was going to succeed, or whoever had distributed it, because Disney had redistributed the Lion King back into theaters around that same time. They did. They had redistributed Lion King back into theaters around the same time. That is basically why Swan Princess didn't do so well. Because Disney had redistributed it. Redistributed Lion King into theaters just in time to basically best Swan Princess. I think that's how it went. I'm not sure, but Swan Princess Thumbelina was one of them. You know, it was one of them. But basically, if Disney was willing to do that, redistribute a movie that was already a massive hit, one of the top animated films of all time, if not still the top animated film of all time, to compete and oust something that was coming to theaters from the competition, then it shows you the level of competition between studios and other markets out there. But that is the obvious question, though. But that is the obvious question. Okay? Because of this competition,